Alright, there we are. That must mean it's time to do another video, huh? People are out there. You don't care. Again, I do. Hi everybody, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch Sustainable Living Educational Center in Far West Texas, along with Cascade the Wonder Dog, and running around out here, the usual pack of suspects, Sarah, the world's ugliest chihuahua. So, we had a new project that Debbie and I have to start working on today. And you know, you can always look at a glass as being half full or half empty. We all know that old story, but sometimes within challenges become opportunities. And what we have, I don't have the money available right now to do the big work we have to do on the house. So the opportunity is there to either sit on my butt and lament about it, or actually do some other stuff that I do have things for, or I've got the material that I can piece together. That's what we're doing here, and I thought it might make a nice video because this is going to be really a no-cost goat shelter. Our billy goats, I know they're, what do they call them? Bucks, but I like billy goats better. So our two billy goats have to be kept separate from the girls, or they'll spend their entire day raping them. And so they're in their own enclosure. Well, I gave them a little house made out of pallets, which they promptly tore down. We took this old cap off of my truck, put it on cinder blocks. I had some rebar stakes around them and had them wired together. And they've started tearing that down. Once they found out they could tear it down, they decided, well, we're just going to tear it down now. So what we have to do is we had to design something where we would have a shelter for them that would have some insulation so that they wouldn't be hot in the heat of summer, which obviously it's not hot right now. And also just give them some nice shelter from the sun. So what I'm going to do is take this cap, which is free, we're not using it, and we're going to set some old 4x6 posts I was given in the ground, set them in concrete, and build them a little enclosure. So that's what we're doing right now. We're going to start off by digging 4 holes for the 4 posts, and then I'll show you where we go from there. Alright, so it's the next day, and I've done some work out there that I'll show you in a minute, but I did want to show you what we're starting with. I had picked up actually a truckload of dead lumber, you know, stuff that somebody isn't going to use anymore, construction debris. That's all we burn in our wood stove here as part of our 3 R's program of reuse, repurpose, or recycle. So, the fellow had given me all these fence panels, which I have no use for this particular fence panel. So it was going to be firewood. And then as we started looking at the goat pen, and last night I looked at, probably 10 videos of people making low-cost goat pens out of pallets or whatever, and I got a couple of other ideas. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clad the thing in these fence panels. I'm cutting them down to the size I need. I'm going to clad them in the fence panels. That's repurposing the fence panels. Now I also have about 2,500 square feet of metal roofing. It's used metal roofing, so it has holes in it. It doesn't match the pattern or the color of what we use here on our roofing. So I've got it for, you know, like little outbuildings and things. Well, outbuilding, a goat building's an outbuilding. We're going to cover this cladding because the gaps in here allow air to blow through and even water to blow through. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it again with the steel. Well, why not just cover it with the steel and not do this? These male goats are some destructive little creatures. They have torn apart 2 pens I've tried to build for them. They will just tear and tear and tear that steel up and cut themselves and probably bleed to death, which I don't want. So we're going to stiffen it with this, attach the steel right to that. And let me show you the progress we've made so far. So I'm not so sure if you can see me or not, but hell, you know what I look like. What I've done here is I got my posts set in concrete. Again, this is all repurposed material, and I didn't have money to buy new, so I had to make do with what I had. So this is the maximum length I could get and still create 4 posts out of these 4x6s. So what I've ended up with is roughly I'm 33 inches above the ground. Then I put the 2x4s on top, which of course makes me 34.5 to 35 above ground. I've got the fencing attached here and on the side, so this is really nice and stable. Now I'm going to attach the steel and then put the old camper cap or the old topper for my pickup truck that I have on top of this. So Debbie and I will have to duck when we go into this. I believe I figured it was 64 or 65 inches high total. But that's all right. We don't mind ducking, and it'll give the male goats, the billies, the bucks, an opportunity to feel secure when they're in their nice solid new house. So let me attach the steel. I'm going to use two different colors because I have a piece of green and then I've got a couple of, I don't know what you'd call them, gray or sand colored, that I'm going to use along here. And I even have some bent pieces that, or rather some corner pieces to attach to kind of neaten it up. And I'll cut off my excesses with the Sawzall. Boy, I hate that when I have those moments, those old man moments. Anyway, I hope you have them too, because that means you live long enough to be an old man or an old woman. I'll be back. So you can see I went ahead and got the steel put on all three sides. The fourth side is going to be open, and I've put my corners on. All that's left now is to put the topper on. See, it looks quite a bit different now. They won't be able to get their horns in and start crying like they've done to the other ones I built that they just tore to pieces. So I'll spare you watching Debbie and I struggle to get this cap on. But I'll come back when we get the cap installed and I get their feeders up and walk you around the whole thing. Alright folks, here it is, my completed goat house made with just some, not necessarily found materials, but materials we have laying around the house. Zero cost, pretty decent place for the goats. I don't know if you can hear me over the geese, so I'm going to get behind the camera and do a quick walk around. As I said, I've protected the corners so that the bucks can't get their heads in there and start pulling or cutting themselves. I've got the steel over the fencing, so that gives it some extra stability. 2x4s on top of the fencing, and we just screwed the, just using wood screws, just screwed the cap on, put their feeders inside. Now if it turns out that they're a little bit exposed here, I'll block off half of this, but I'm kind of holding off on it. We've left it pretty much like this as long as we've had the boys, and I've got this away from our prevailing winds. So we'll just see how it is. Again, that's it. That's our goat house made out of just material laying around, zero cost. Took me about a day and a half, but I always work a little bit slow. Please, feel free to comment if you'd like. However, before you send a comment that says, next time do it this way, I would have done it this way, why didn't you do it that way? Be sure and put a link in that comment to one or all the goat houses that you have personally built so that we can all go and take a look at it. Does two things: get you some more views on your channel, and also proves to me and everybody else out there that you're not some 30-year-old, 300-pound guy with acne sitting in his mother's basement eating a ham sandwich being a professional troll. Not that anybody does that. Anyway, I hope you like that. I got a lot more coming up while we get ourselves ready to build the wall, finish the walls here at the Eco Ranch living quarters. And until those videos, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch Sustainable Living Educational Center saying, see you later. Did I say we were in Far West Texas? We're in Far West Texas. See you later.